You know, in the first part of this series, we talked about this rivalry, which has been kind of forgotten by 95% of the hockey fans that grew up in the 1970s. But according to numerous published reports, and I really didn't remember it until one of the followers of the channel had noted it, the intense rivalry between the Philadelphia Flyers and the California Golden Seals. Now, at the time, the Flyers were top flight, and the Seals were second run. Now, according to a book by Steve Courier, no relation, by the way. I'm a carrier, he's a courier. Sometime during the 73-74 season, the Seals and Flyers collided violently, and intense rivalry was born. Now, this is taken from the California Golden Seals, A Tale of White Skates, Red Ink, and one of the NHL's most outlandish teams. The book, that is. Now, less likely enemies you could not find, as the Flyers average over 20 penalty minutes per game, while the Seals average about 8 or 9. Now, according to the Drop Your Gloves website, the Flyers were involved in 108 fights that season, while the Seals participated in just 25 tilts. But every now and then, some of the California dressing room would strike up the nerve to stand up to the league's resident goons. One Seal who was never intimidated by the Flyers was a proud Maritimer Hilliard Graves. Graves was a tough customer and a very sneaky hitter. Some would say even he was a tad dirty, but unlike some sneaky players, he didn't shy away from the league's toughest customers. For instance, he and the Flyers' Dave Schultz developed a heated feud, but according to many who witnessed the Seals-Flyers rivalry, it was Boot Hill Graves who would smack Schultz around. He had a hip check that would just send people flying. Seals Booster Club member Dick Bandages remembered about Graves, and he was feisty. I think he gave Schultz the good old hip check once, and he never forgot about it. Graves was never one to rack up tons of penalties, but according to Stan Weir, he fought Dave Schultz every time we played Philadelphia. He always held his own. Fred Glover believed Graves could beat up Schultz any day of the week. He started Schultz, so I started Graves, and Graves would go out and beat the shit out of Schultz. There were fights galore, and we needed a police escort to get to our hotel. I told the linesman and the referee, "Thank God you were here." Now, before this incident we're going to talk about, Pete Laframboise and Hilliard Graves were basically saying, you know, behind the scenes and up front, we really need to be tough against the Flyers. Now, this hard-hitting season between the Seals and the Flyers became a real starting point, can be traced back to an incident that occurred earlier in the year on December 22nd. Now, a young defenseman by the name of Barry Cummins, who was a lineup filling in for Terry Murray, a former Montreal Canadian and a tough customer himself, had been injured. Cummins, who was playing in just his 5th NHL game, had no idea that this is the contest he would be remembered for. The Flyers were leading the West Division basement dwellers 2-1 in the second when Philly captain Bobby Clarke struck Cummins under the eye with his sticks. Cummins immediately stalked Clarke to the Flyers bench, which was a bad idea to begin with, and swung his stick a la Teddy Green at Clarke's head, which opened up a nasty 18-inch gash. "I never saw the stick coming," said Clarke. "When it hit, I could see the blood and felt dizzy, but I didn't think it was hurt bad." Well, maybe because being diabetic, with the blood loss, it impacted his sugar numbers, of course. Now, Cowboy Bill Flint immediately went after Cummins. The law, according to Flyers, explained Schultz, was that anyone who hit Clarke paid for it. No ifs, ands, or buts. Bob Kelly soon joined the fracas, as did the entire Seals bench. Cummins was buried somewhere under a pile of worn sweaters, likely wondering why he had made the mistake of provoking the Broad Street Bullies. He emerged from the pile of humanity bloodied and was taken to the dressing room to get stitched up. Cummins eventually received a game misconduct, a $300 fine, and a 3-game suspension. Philadelphia's Kelly and Fleck received misconducts for leaving the bench. While the matter seemed settled, as all the miscreants served their time in the box and in the dressing room, Graves and Schultz continued to needle each other for 10 more minutes following the brawl. The referee got sick and tired of the violence, so he tossed Graves and Schultz, as well as Selesky and Ed Van Nip, out of the game, and each was fined $100 afterwards. Now Clarke, who by not properly controlling his stick had perhaps inadvertently triggered a rivalry that would consume both teams for the next 4.5 years. Thankfully, Cummins had not injured Clarke badly, and the Flyers captain returned to lead his team to a 5-1 victory. Cummins felt terrible for what he did. Clarke had cut me under the eye with his stick. I was mad and didn't have time to think. It was an impulse action that I regretted the second after it happened. I'm sorry. You always are when you hurt somebody. The next day, Cummins called Clarke from Oakland and apologized. He was really sick about what happened, said Clarke. It takes a little courage to make a call like that. Clarke accepted Cummins' apology, but the rest of the Flyers were not allowed to let bygones be bygones. I don't care what happened, exclaimed Fleck. You don't hit a guy over the head with a two-hander. It's too easy to kill somebody. Kelly also added the game is an unwritten rule you don't hit anybody over the head. If they use him against us again, you can bet there will be a repeat. Now the rivalry continued on and off, but the Cummins incident marked one of the few times Bobby Clarke got what he deserved. So thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen, to our California Seals Flyers podcast. Have a great day.